Now, I enjoyed this episode because it's basically my PhD in 30 minutes. My PhD looked at masculinities in the army, and this show is really all about masculinities when they're put up against each other and often in conflict with each other. As we've said, there's no women in this particular episode, and it's very much a sense that it gives a sense, the programme overall, that World War II is a man's war, you know. And to be fair, that's the narrative the army kind of promoted itself until only the last couple of decades has the recognition of the role of women, of ethnic minorities, even to some extent the role of LGBTQ in the army, in the war, has started to be shown. But, and for example, Mannering he's delighted, he relishes the chance to come face to face with the enemy, doesn't he? So, but the men in this episode, in this show, are too old, or they're too young, or they're medically unfit. So they're not the usual exemplar of military masculinities.
I see, yeah.
And we have authority figures who are incompetent but well-meaning. So again, giving the lie to the fact that the army might not be as efficient as it likes itself to think it was. Captain Mannering is a fantasy of middle-class authority and a man desperate to be taken seriously, but of course, like many other, like Basil Fawlty, he's not taken seriously at all. So actually, Dad's Army is a show that emasculates its male characters, but does so in a safe way. So it doesn't necessarily take anything from those characters, but it shows them up for the not exemplars of masculinity, which the military is usually portrayed as. And it encourages us to laugh along with these men who are no longer, central to power. So I thought it was actually super interesting from that perspective.
Yeah, we've got Arthur Lowe, haven't we, who
Yes.
plays Captain George Mannering, who's essentially kind of the main character.
Yes.
I mean, obviously he's the leader of this disparate pack of
Yes.
home guards
Yes.
and everything.
Yeah.
And then we've got John Le Mesurier as Sergeant Arthur Wilson, who's kind of like his foil. He's kind of our window into this world a little bit. He's the voice of reason. He's a little bit more, portrayed to be a little bit more intelligent and knowing than the others and everything.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. And then we've got Clive Dunn, who's Lance Corporal Jack Jones. Now, he's very interesting because he's one of the oldest of the group. And throughout the course of the series, it emerges that actually he's a World War I veteran. And his World War service is a key part of his character and is frequently referenced throughout the show. And he regales his stories of combat. He's got an aggressive enthusiasm for bayonet charges because they're all walking around, like you say, they're quite ill-equipped with old World War I kind of bayonet style and everything. And he's one who's got the best catchphrases.
Right.
He says they don't like it up 'em, which means the Germans don't like bayonets up their bum.
Yes,
kind of thing, which is a common catchphrase. And he's got a real mistrust and hatred of the enemy, the Germans. He calls them the fuzzy wuzzies and the Hun.
Right.
And although Dad's Army is a comedy, Jones's background as World War I soldiers is treated as kind of genuine within this fictional universe and helps explain both his bravery and sometimes unhinged behaviour.
Right.
So that's quite interesting. I mean,
Yes.
Clive Dunn, we all know him as Grandad,
Grandad,
don't we?
yeah.
He's a real fun character. But yeah, it's interesting to kind of like delve into the backstory of the character there, because there would have been a lot of these old home guards who were left over from World War One and had experienced, this horrendous form of combat in the trenches.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and again, so they're kind of jostling with each other, aren't they? Like the John Mesurier character clearly just has no respect for Arthur Lowe at all, does he? And again, that's kind of when you get masculinities alongside each other, these little kind of hierarchies form, don't they? We've seen it in Reservoir Dogs as well, in our episode on Reservoir Dogs. So before we actually take a deep dive into the episode, we have a look at the top 10?
In
What was in the
1973.
charts? Yeah, what was in the music charts?
Let's do it.
So this is the top 10 singles from the 28th of October 1973. Do you want to start us off with number 10?
I will. So, let's have a look. Number 10, Perry Como is still knocking around at this point. For the Good Times. Don't know that one really, but... Oh,
Number 9.
do I need to put a mat down?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Can we just cut recording just so we can get a dog puppy mat on the because it's the Carpenters. Yay! Number 9, top of the world.
Oh, how
Yeah.
lovely. Now, we watched a little bit of Karen Carpenter on YouTube last night, didn't we?
We did, yes, we did.
After we've had a few bevies, and
Yeah.
we're winding down from our Word episode. And there was a really interesting interview, wasn't there, with Sue Lawley, who's an interviewer in the UK. What year was it from?
1980.
Yeah, and she was probing quite hard into Karen Carpenter's eating disorders, so much so that someone from the Carpenter team
Stops the interview.
stops the interview.
Yeah, and you can see them getting increasingly pissed off as the interview goes on, can't you?
Yeah.
God, and skeletal is not the word. She just, God love her.
Oh, she was very ill, wasn't she?
Oh, love her.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of Slade and glam rock, number 8, My Friend Stan by Slade. I wonder who Stan was.
Oh, who can say? Number 7, Ghetto Child, the Detroit Spinners.
Right. Okay. And number 6, Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. That's a classic there. There's a few classics in this.
Number 5, Caroline by Status Quo.
We love a bit of Quo
Love
on
a bit
this
of the
podcast. And that song in particular reminds me of my dad.
Oh,
who
that's nice.
Yeah, he used to be in a band, played lead guitar. And when I was a kid in the 80s, they played outside Marks and Spencer's just before Christmas for charity, dressed in Santa Claus outfits. And they played this song, and I remember bopping along to it. And I
lovely.
remember it was snowing, it was absolutely freezing, and my poor dad and his bandmates had to stand out in these Santa outfits
God.
for about 3 hours. They must have been absolutely freezing. We went along, heard them play one song, and then Mum took us to McDonald's.
Right, gosh. And of course, everybody's wearing lots of wool. There's no kind of
Yeah,
fleecy puffer jackets or
exactly.
anything.
But hats off to my dad and his bandmates for doing that for
Indeed.
charity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hero is my dad.
Yes. Is it me or you?
It's me.
Yes,
I
it's
think.
you, it's
Yes.
you.
Okay. So we've got a continuation of the Osmonds, which we've talked about in previous episodes, being a phenomenon.
Yes.
Number 4, Let Me In.
Let me in.
Let me in.
Number 3 is Sorrow, David Bowie. Great song.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Very
Number
good.
2, Eye Level (brackets 1973) by the Simon Park Orchestra.
That is the theme tune to Van der Valk,
Oh.
which was a big TV hit at the time. Detective in Amsterdam.
Right.
Yeah, and Eye Level was the theme.
Now I remember
Yeah.
it.
Tell you what number 1 is?
Yes. Let's do it.
It's David Cassidy. Control yourselves, ladies.
Oh.
David Cassidy with Daydreamer / Puppy Song.
Was he in the Partridge Family?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I love you. Oh, that's
Yes.
the name of the song.
Yes.
Not a
Yeah.
declaration
Oh,
to you, darling.
thanks, darling. Nice little top 10.
Yes, it was. Yes. A few little bangers in there.
So let's have a look at this episode before we think about the problems in it.
Yes.
Then.
Okay. So obviously we've got the theme tune, the
Yes.
opening credits,
Yeah.
and the kind of cartoon arrows showing
Yeah.
the Nazis advancing and the British forces pushing back over France, etc. So that is it's iconic,
Yes.
isn't it? Again,
Immediately sets the tone.
yeah, we've got Jimmy Croft and David Perry, who are stalwarts of British comedy, who wrote this, etc. And it's a multi-camera setup. It's a typical sitcom. This is a proper situation comedy
Yes.
set in the village hall of Warmington-on-Sea. Most of it's set there. I mean, there are a few location shots, but yeah, mainly set in this with a studio audience, obviously. And then Captain Mannering, who's the leader of this merry band, receives a direct warning of Germans passing off as Brits in downed warplanes. Quite telling that this warning, this missive is sent from GCHQ or the
Yes,
equivalent
yes.
of, and it says that it's not often that our men get shot down very often. So, but which is an outright lie.
Yes.
This propaganda from the top. I mean, thousands of poor RAF
Gosh.
pilots got shot down during the
Yes,
war, didn't
yeah.
they? And everything. So then we get word, and then there's jokes about parachuting nuns.
Yes.
And that kind of went on for a little bit longer. And, you know, what do nuns' legs look like? What are we looking out for parachuting nuns? It was fun. But
It was fun, yeah.
yeah, and then we get news that a German U-boat crew has been captured and our Home Guard crew must guard them.
Yes, and enter Philip Maddock,
Yes.
great actor, as the commander.
Yes.
Of course, husband of Ruth Maddock, but also with a very long, illustrious career. He's often in lots of other TV shows at the time. Great voice, often plays those kind of parts that need a bit of gravitas and a deep stentorious voice.
Yes.
You know, he's great.
He was great, and I think he was hired for this because he could actually speak German.
Ah, okay,
So he
right.
could speak the German language, but speak English with an authentic German accent
Yes,
as well.
right.
And, you know, the Germans are portrayed as officious,
Mm-hmm.
as brutal, the real in direct contrast to the kind of gentle nature of the Brits.
The comfy,
Yeah.
carpet slippers, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mannering says at one point about the Germans, they're a nation of automatons led by a lunatic who looks like Charlie Chaplin.
Yes, and we'll talk about what this episode says about the Germans in a wee while, because it is a slightly problematic element of it.
Yeah. So basically what happens is they get told they have to keep the Germans on guard overnight. So they're all sat there, aren't they, with the Germans. They get told they have to feed them. So Captain Mannering tells one of the gents to go out and get them fish and chips.
Yes.
And it's... what's his name? Joe Walker, who's kind of like the spiv, isn't he?
Yes.
Played by James Beck. He goes and takes their order, and they're all going, okay, I want fish, but I want place, and I don't want salt on mine.
Who wants salt? Who wants vinegar? Who wants salt and
Yeah.
vinegar? Who doesn't want salt and vinegar? For me, it went on a little bit long as well.
It did a little bit, but I thought it was a really fun joke that this Private Joe Walker is taking their order
Yes.
rather than just literally just buying a job lot of fish and chips
Yeah.
and saying, "Yeah, like it or lump it."
Yes.
kind of vibe.
Yeah.
That was quite fun and gentle. But then the Germans get the better of the Home Guard, get hold of a gun, and then they essentially kind of hold them hostage.
Yes.
And this kind of leads to, well, prior to that, there's one of the most iconic lines in British sitcom history.
Yes.
Now, the German U-boat captain, Philip Maddock, says to them, when we get released and we go back to Germany, you're all going on my list. So when we invade, you'll be the first one to get it in the neck.
Exactly.
And Ian Lavender, who plays the young Private Pike,
Yes.
starts singing about Hitler in the Albert Hall and all that. doesn't
Yes.
he? And the U-boat captain says, right, your name's going on the list. What's your name?
Yeah.
And then Captain Mannering
Says,
very famously says, don't
after 3, 1, 2, 3, don't tell him, Pike. And that's the clip you see everywhere, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the iconic clip, isn't it? And of course, he goes
is.
at Pike and writes it down.
Exactly.
You know.
Now, I didn't really sell that very well. Certainly not as well as
Philip Maddock. And Arthur Lowe.
an Arthur Lowe. Yeah, but I mean, it is. And, you know, ask anybody in the UK of a certain age, they'll know that catchphrase.
Yes.
Another catchphrase that Captain Mannering has about Ian Lavender, who's the young Private Pike, is "you stupid boy,"
Yes.
which we've all been called a stupid boy at one point or other, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
You stupid boy. Yeah, that's fun. I worked with Ian Lavender. who
Did you?
plays Frank Pike, yes.
Was he nice?
Very nice.
Lovely.
Called me governor.
Oh,
As the
that's nice.
So proper old school.
Very nice.
And I kind of walked away with a little spring in my
I
step.
bet you did.
Yes. And then we get a kind of series of kind of slapstick elements, hand grenades down trousers and things like that. And then the Germans are recaptured and the equilibrium is restored.
Yes. Yes. It did. There's some quite good physical comedy, which I quite enjoyed.
Yeah.
And there's one bit, I think my favourite bit was the bit where Philip Maddock just blows cigarette smoke in Captain Mannering's face and just his reaction. I thought that was great. there are some problems, which we will have a little look at. Class is riven throughout this episode, as indeed it is in the army. You know, the officers tend to be from the upper classes, whereas everybody else tends to be from the lower classes. And we see that structure. We see the army's class-based hierarchy in action. Mannering is the top of his particular tree, but his superior is obviously posher than he is.
Yeah.
Walker, the guy who takes the fish and chips order, he's obviously the working class spiv, so he gets to do the fish and chips business because obviously Captain Mannering couldn't do it, or even the guy above him couldn't do it because they're from the wrong class and probably don't eat fish and chips. We've talked a bit at the top of the show about the lack of representation of other soldiers who aren't white and straight, which is fair enough, you know, because that's not what this show's about. But it's their absence, I think, is telling, as is the absence of women. But as we touched on earlier, I think the real key thing that this show is doing is myth making about the war, and helps us to, as we said earlier, reconcile the feeling that Britain is starting to fade as a power, as an international power. But the war and remembrance of it allows us to maintain the illusion that we still have this empire, etc. It's clear in the song's in the title song, you know, if you think old England's done, again, England, not Britain. Remembrance of the war is peculiarly more English than British. You know, it tends to be England that really, really goes all in thinking about the war and remembering it. As you've said, the Germans are disparaged. They're a nation of automatons. We're told that the Germans have absolutely no sense of humour, which was another one of the kind of classic, and again, it's riffed on in the Fawlty Towers episode, The Germans. So these are clearly these problematic elements of the show. Agree thus far?
Absolutely. Actually, it's funny what you say about the empire and the decline of the empire, because that was referenced very heavily. One of the central themes of Till Death Us Do Part that we've watched, and to a certain extent, Steptoe and Son.
Yes, absolutely.
Things ain't what they used to be.
Yes.
We aren't as Real Britannia doesn't rule the waves anymore. All that kind of thing. It just really figure heavily in the cultural, historical psyche of Britain, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely, and it continues to influence us to this day, or certain aspects of society to this day. But with all that being said, one thing I did enjoy was that actually what this show does is it normalizes failure and fear. It's not the hyper-masculine war heroism which you get in other kind of myth
Bridge Too Far, The Great Escape, all that kind
River
of thing.
Kwai, all that stuff, all of that stuff. And the homespun nature of it gives it an air of comfort. And the fact they've got dodgy equipment, the fact that the grenade detonators are ineffectual. They themselves are ineffectual. Clive Dunn shuts the ceiling down at one point, you know. So it's refreshing. Although, yes, it is myth-making, it's not doing in this kind of macho, butch, you know, exclusionary way, which, as we've said, a lot of other stuff does. And it also shows that to achieve stuff, if you do it as a collective, you have better results than just one person, which is actually unusual because the army is one leader. You know, that you must follow orders, but actually this show shows us that together we are stronger than just one. Think back to the Poseidon adventure, you know, when you have those two guys jostling to be the top dog, and that film is all about one powerful man is all you need. You know, this is the exact opposite of this, which I loved actually. It's an anti-fascist sitcom, undoubtedly, and it's also quite humane and dressed up as nostalgia. So yes, it's got those problematic elements you talked about, but at the same time I think it's actually a refreshing take on manhood and military masculinity. So
that's really interesting. I never thought about it that way. It was gentle.
Yes,
this is a representation of how men can be.
Now, but as we've touched on, one of the problematic elements of it, bringing it into today, as that it's often brought up in like discourse around Brexit, around sovereignty,
Nationalism.
around ideas of the past, you know, ideas of the Blitz spirit, you know, those myths which we had to tell ourselves after the war because the country is fucked.
Yeah.
You know, as is much of Europe, the 5 or 6 years after the war are worse than the war itself. Huge swathes of it are destroyed. Infrastructure has gone. So we needed to create these myths about what just happened and what we've just gone through in order to process it, but also in order to make ourselves literally feel better because everything around us was absolutely fucking shite after the war. Was terrible. Of course, Dad's Army often get used in kind of culture war discourse. You know, I'm sure you've seen online and social media. Things were better when it was these days, you know.
Yeah.
Bollocks, you know. So it can get weaponized sometimes, can't it?
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know?
I wonder how much the writers were trying to convey that message of lost empire and things like that, anti-fascism, or if that was just what they fell on with these group of home guards.
I mean, they've lived through it, so I imagine it's more kind of. They're not. I think they're not deliberately setting out. They're definitely not trying to be political in any way or make a statement. I don't think they want to make entertaining telly, don't they?
Yeah.
But they're giving us cosy nostalgia to do so. It kind of hints that, you know, Britain is better when it looks backwards, looks back on itself, as opposed to looking forwards and trying to embrace a new, diverse, interesting future.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's really interesting all that because the way the country's going at the moment, I mean, obviously you have to look at America, and then if there's a sense that Britain is kind of going down that road as well with the Reform Party and everything, using this Dad's Army, not necessarily directly, but using this whole, what we termed as shitstalgia, of looking at the past thinking, oh, it was great back then when we had shows like Dad's Army and it was all about, you know, how wonderful Britain was and everything.
Yes.
You know, Britain's still wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we've gone through some blips along the way.
As has everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But and it's changed. You know, things change. Things can't stay the same forever.
They can't.
It is all right to dip your toe into this warm, comfy, nostalgic element of Dad's Army and what Dad's Army represents going further back in time.
Yes.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that life was any better back then. I mean, look, life was shit during the war.
Yeah.
Life was shit in 1973 when this show was being produced with 3-day week, the strikes, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, there are shit elements in life all the time, but it doesn't necessarily mean life in general is shit.
Absolutely. As a great man once said, life is a roller coaster, baby. You just got to ride it.
I forgot you worshipped at the altar of Ronan Keating.
Oh, I thought that was Shakespeare. Here's a question for our listeners to think about. We hope you've piqued your interest in this discussion. But what does Dad's Army let us believe about our country? Oh. We won't answer it. We'll have a discussion afterwards over a cup of tea, maybe.
Answers on a postcard to
Indeed.
PG Manor.
Yes, indeed. So, what would you give this episode out of 10?
I would give it, okay, we do talk about how nostalgia informs our opinions on things, and I don't have a huge nostalgic attachment to this show. I did enjoy it as a standalone piece. I thought the writing was good. I thought the performances were great. Although you could actually see that Arthur Lowe, who played Captain Mannering, was stumbling across his lines a lot of the time. Well, that's not a criticism, obviously. And the really fast pace of TV production doesn't allow you to go again a lot of the time, especially when, you know, eyes are on the clock and all the lights go out at 7 p.m. and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think I would give it 7 cotton chips out of 10.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
As we've discussed, it's very rare that a comedy ages finely. Humour was a lot less sophisticated in 1973. So watching it with modern eyes, it can feel a bit basic. But as you say, the performances are great. Cracking character actors, all doing great work. So yeah, I'd give it 7 dodgy hand grenades out of 10 as well. You know, I didn't It was all right.
Well, exactly. I mean, we're not sitting here saying we hate Dad's Army, which
No.
I think a lot of our listeners might cast aspersion,
Yeah.
look on us, frown upon us if we did, but we didn't at all. It's just not up our strata.
Not up our strata, love.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
That's all
That's
right.
all
It's what the
right.
problematic gaze is all about.
But listen, yeah, we could have given it 2 out of 10.
Exactly.
And gone for a glass of wine afterwards,
well,
but...
we're not cancelling it. We
No.
don't cancel anything that we watch, do we?
No. Maybe some we should, but anyway, let's have on. So yeah, that was Dad's Army, and I enjoyed it as from the social history perspective, and actually the perspective of thinking about myth making and what nations do after conflict. It was interesting, but yeah, cool.
Okay.
Now, in another dramatic gear change,
I can't keep up with the way we were just whiplashing backwards and forwards through genre and time. But
next week, the Telly TARDIS is taking us to 2011.
yeah,
I mean, that's almost a modern age.
I thought it was only yesterday. It was only last year, wasn't it?
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we are looking at the sublime ridiculousness.
We're going up north.
We're going up north, up to my neck of the woods,
Aye.
because we're going to be watching Geordie Shore. I'm quietly horrified.
I'm quite excited.
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Have you seen it before?
I watched a few when it first came out.
Right.
I mean, it's one of those things that you're glued to because you can't actually quite believe what's happening.
Okay.
I won't give too much away.
Right.
But I see a lot of myself in those girls.
Really? Really? Right. And for anybody who doesn't know, Geordie Shore, it's like Jersey Shore, but it's set in Newcastle.
Yeah.
It's a reality show that follows 6 young people as they basically just shag, drink and argue.
Yes.
Isn't it? That's all it is.
Yeah.
And then wake up the next day full of regret and then do it all again.
Yeah. Now, we're going to post, in our Gazer homework section, I will post a link. So if you want to watch the episode we watched prior to the episode going out next week, then please do.
Yes.
Click in the bio and the show notes for this episode. Now, we can't put the episode that we watched of Dad's Army up because it's not available on YouTube for
No.
free. You can buy it, but
Yes.
what I will do is post some links to some YouTube snippets and things, including the famous catchphrases and things, so you can get a taste and an idea of what Dad's Army is about once you're listening to this podcast, before or after.
Or you can spend £1.89 like I did and
Yes.
purchase the episode, so it's forever on my iPad.
Yes.
And in the meanwhile, do like and subscribe. Follow us on our socials, TikTok and Instagram at podcastgaze, Gaze. You can email us at theproblematicgaze@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. Leave us a review. Make sure it's 5-star. What was the one we read today? Waffle.
Yeah, complete waffle.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we were going to reply. You forgot to say award-winning.
Yes,
complete waffle.
I think you'll find that award-winning waffle, isn't it? Now go and flick yourself off somewhere.
Not for everyone, but there are a million other podcasts out there. But we're really pleased that you stick with us and you enjoy listening to our waffle.
Exactly.
Yes.
There we go. Right, love. I'm off to Blanco me rifle while having a cheeky sneaky fag. What are you doing?
What's Blanco mean?
It's polishing it. Because I know the military terms, love. Yeah.
I'm going to ask the chip shop to put some mushy pigs in for me.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So until next week, gazers, au reservoir.
Au reservoir.